our next storyteller. So, his little weirdsie, I'm gonna have to read this. He loves to intentionally mispronounce words in front of people who don't know that he knows better. Like instead of saying depot, he might say depot. Instead of saying phlegm, phlegem. Instead of sorbet, sorbet. God, how do you say it? He says, my husband's gonna get me for that one because it's a family joke that I pronounce it wrong. Sorbet, right? Please give it up for Anthony C. Brinkley.
So, it was my junior year of high school, one day before my big match against one of the top wrestlers in the state. I was looking forward to it because now I could gauge where I stood against other wrestlers in my weight class, but there was a complication. I had injured my leg 2 weeks before, and though it was okay now, the enforcing activity had caused me to gain a little more weight than normal. And in wrestling, a little bit of weight goes a long way. See, there are several different weight classifications in which you can be under but not over a certain weight. I had started the year 15 pounds heavier than my 130-pound wrestling weight because everybody pulled weight in wrestling. If you stayed at your normal weight, you'd be going against somebody who was normally 15 or 20 pounds heavier than you and had pulled down to be all hard, lean muscle. Anyway, so with one day and almost 3 pounds to go, I still needed a little help. So I got this brilliant idea of being new to wrestling. I just started my sophomore year. I got this idea that very few people had probably ever thought of. That morning, I ingested the magical chocolate shortcut called X-Lax. I mean, what could it hurt? Of course, I knew there'd be some discomfort, and I did have a few rumbles and quick X's, but by the time I got to my typing class that afternoon, I was feeling pretty good about my decision. Now, typing was my favorite class because I sat next to this sexy, flirtatious Amazon with these big, juicy Betty Boop lips. There was nothing going on between us because Vivian was a 6'2" senior sex goddess, and I was a 5'9", not very popular junior. So, but she loved to flirt and was not at all bad to look at. The problem was, on the other side of Vivian sat this 6'7" basketball player who was totally infatuated with her. But the boy was just goofy, would say lines like, "Oh my goodness, you look sweet potatoes and cornbread good," which sounded pretty good to me, but Vivian would just turn her head and mouth, "Country," when he wasn't looking. Still, she would flirt with him and bat her eyes to get him to do things for her, but not too much, because she didn't want to encourage him. But she openly flirted with my short ass, which, of course, did not sit well with Big Boy. Now, my relationship with Deke, while we weren't friends, wasn't hostile either. I even tried to hook them up, but Vivian would have none of it. Anyway, on this particular day, I'd run out of typing paper, and I asked Vivian if I could get some out of her folder next to her. She said, sure. So I'm going in the folder, and I feel somebody grab the back of my shirt and pull on it as Deke screams, "Get out of my damn paper!" And he tried to fling me down. Well, I kept my balance and turned to face him, and that's when Deke decided to unleash all his frustrations with not getting Vivian and watching her flirt with me and threw a punch. My wrestling instincts took over. I ducked under, got in on his legs, lifted, but it was like trying to jack a stork. So I had to go a little higher, and the X-Lax remembered what it was supposed to do. And you know those little micro conversations you have with your brain? Was that a short? No, I think that was just an overly gaseous fart. So I decided to go for it and put some oomph to it, lifted it higher, and Niagara Falls. So I slumped down, holding on, and had him duck my head in as he was beating me on the back until two guys came to broke it up. And when I stood up, walking stiffly, I was trying to hold my guts and my emotions in because Deke was giving me that, yeah, I beat your little ass look. So I walked on out the door, down the hallway, out of the school, all the way home. When I got to the house, I peeled off my stinky clothes, sat on the toilet for a long time, trying to make sure everything was empty. Then I cleaned my clothes, cleaned myself, but now I'm getting a little pissed. I'm seething because I knew I had him, and that smirk, I just had to wipe it off his face. So I'm putting on some clothes, and I'm ready to go. I took a few hard swings and did a couple of frog jumps. Nothing? Okay, I'm ready. So I headed back to school, ready for revenge. I knew Deke would be coming out the back with the other athletes, so my plan was to jump him as soon as he came through the door. But time was running out, and as I bound up that last step, I jumped and so dejected, I turned and went on back home. We never did have that rematch because Vivian told him what happened and chastised him for being a bully. He apologized, and not being a guy who really liked to fight, I accepted. I really wanted to tell people what happened, that I wasn't that weak. But, you know, it was high school, and I couldn't add any fuel to the story about getting the beat out of me. And to top it all off, I never did make weight. So my ex-lax sojourn taught me a valuable lesson that changed the way I prepare for the rest of my life. I learned that shortcuts cut short your goals, and silently cutting into your shorts is not golden. So now, way in advance of any event, I make sure I got my shit together. Thank you.